Welcome to Just Say It podcast. I'm your host, Brittany, the Purpose Strategist. Today's episode is titled Boundaries Are Not Rejection, They're Protection. Before we begin, I'm going to ask you to please take a deep breath. Not a rushed one, not a shallow one, a real deep breath. Take that breath with me. You see how time stood still and you felt refreshed for a minute? I bet you're wondering why I asked you to do that. I asked you to do that because this episode is not and cannot just be background noise. I need you to hear me and take this wisdom in. This episode is for the ones who are tired but still showing up. The ones who are strong because you have no other choice but to be. The ones who have been holding more than they were ever meant to hold alone. If that's you, you're in the right place. Please stay with me for a minute. Let's have a discussion. But let me say something first that might stop you right in your tracks. If you disappear tomorrow, the world will simply adjust. They will simply adjust. And that doesn't mean you don't matter. But what it means is you were never meant to carry everything alone. If hearing that makes you uncomfortable, you definitely need to stay with me because this episode is for you. Today we're talking about boundaries, not the trendy kind, not the kind that sound good on social media, but the kind that actually protect your life, your calling, and your peace. Boundaries are not rejection. They are put in place to be your protection. For many of us, boundaries feel wrong, not because they are wrong, but because we were never taught how to set them without guilt. If you grew up being praised for being helpful, dependable, or strong, you likely learned that love was connected to availability. But your availability has nothing to do with being loved. So when you start pulling back, even in healthy ways, I know you're feeling guilt because that's where it shows up. But guilt does not always mean you're doing something wrong. Sometimes it means you're doing something new. And anytime you do something new, there's a feeling of uncomfortableness. Boundaries don't mean you don't care. They mean you care enough to protect what you've been entrusted with. And that's important. Kindness does not require unlimited access. Everyone should not have access to you. You can be loving and still unavailable. You can be generous and still say no. Accessibility without boundaries only leads to resentment. And resentment eventually poisons even good intentions. So you need to ask yourself this: do I give because I choose to? Or am I giving because I feel trapped? Your freedom matters. Boundaries restore your choice. In faith centered spaces, sacrifice is often celebrated, but discernment is often ignored. Not every sacrifice is sacred. Some sacrifices are simply unexamined habits. Even purpose driven lives require limits. You are not disobedient for resting. You are not selfish for saying no. You are not unfaithful for protecting your capacity. Wisdom asks, is this sustainable? And sustainability honors your calling. Here are some signs a boundary is overdue. You feel resentful instead of generous. You avoid people you once loved serving. You explain yourself constantly. You feel anxious when resting. You say yes, but regret it immediately. These are not character flaws. These are signals, and you need to listen to them as an act of wisdom. Here's a simple boundary you can practice today, or even for the rest of the week. Pause before responding. You do not owe anyone an immediate answer. You are allowed to say, let me think about that. The pause creates a space for clarity. Boundaries don't push people away. They protect what matters so you can show up whole. In the next episode, we will talk about rest, not as a reward, but as a wisdom. Until then, breathe, protect your peace. I hope there's something we discussed in regards to boundaries that helped you today. So I'm going to ask you just one favor as the week goes on and we're approaching the weekend, of course, where most of us take our downtime. But before we get there, I'm going to ask you to take a breath and pause before you commit to doing anything else. I need you to ask yourself, am I doing this with a willing heart, excited to do it where I can go all in and do it at my greatest capacity? Or am I doing this because I don't want anybody to be disappointed in me? And I want to please other people and I want to feel loved, so I don't want to disappoint. If any of those are the reason why you're doing it, then you need to make yourself practice staying and walking in the activation of no, I can't do it. Because what that means is that you haven't put yourself in a healthy space to recoup, to feel better, to refresh, to be able to show up with an open mind, new clarity, new inventions, new creativity, excitement for what you're doing, something that motivates you to want more of it. That's the space that purpose is activated. And it's important that boundaries are in place so we can live there and help each other. Please keep this word of wisdom with you as the week continues. And remember, this is Just Say It podcast, and I am Brittany, the Purpose Strategist. Have an amazing week. And don't forget, take a breath. It's okay to pause before you answer.